The Weight of Everything. A story of carrying too much. Andres stood at the kitchen sink staring at the sippy cup in his hand. The water had been running for how long? He couldn't remember. Through the window, the Tuesday morning sun illuminated a yard full of toys he hadn't had time to pick up. Behind him, Melissa was crying about her socks feeling wrong, and Leo had somehow gotten into the cabinet where the pots lived and was banging two lids together like cymbals. "Daddy, these are the bad socks," Melissa wailed. He turned off the water. His hands moved automatically now, reaching for the next dish, but his mind felt wrapped in fog. "Let me see, mi hija." His voice came out flat. Melissa thrust her foot toward him, her 4-year-old face crumpled in genuine distress. The sock looked identical to every other sock she owned, but he knew better than to say that. He'd learned that lesson 3 tantrums ago. "Okay, let's find different ones." "The purple ones." "The purple ones are in the laundry." "Then wash them." Leo chose that moment to drop both pot lids with a crash that made Andres flinch. The 2-year-old looked up at him with wide eyes, waiting to see if he was in trouble. Andres meant to smile, meant to keep his voice gentle, but what came out was sharp and tight. "Leo, no, those are loud." Leo's lower lip trembled. Perfect. Now both kids would be crying, and Andres still needed to get them dressed, fed, and to Mrs. Morrison's house by 8 so he could make it to work by 9, except he'd already texted his manager that he'd be late because he needed to stop by the hospital first. Isabel had been moved to ICU yesterday. The oncologist wanted to talk to him about adjusting expectations. He didn't have time to think about what that meant. "I'm sorry, buddy. Daddy's just tired." He scooped Leo up, settled Melissa's sock crisis with a pair that weren't purple but also weren't the bad ones, and herded both children toward the breakfast table where cereal waited in bowls that had been sitting out long enough for the flakes to go soggy. His phone buzzed. The hospital. His stomach clenched. "Hello?" "Mr. Vega, this is Dr. Petal. Your wife had a difficult night. We've got her stable, but I'd like you to come in when you can." When he could? As if he had a choice? As if there was ever a moment when he could do anything? "I'll be there in an hour." He hung up and looked at his children, who were watching him with expressions that knew something was very wrong, but didn't understand what. Melissa had stopped crying about the socks. She looked small in her chair, her dark hair uncombed because Andres didn't know how to do the braids Isabel always made. "Is Mama coming home today?" she asked. "Not today, mija." "Tomorrow?" "I don't know." It was the only honest answer he had, and it felt like failing them. The call came from Grace Fellowship on Thursday. Andres had stopped going to church 3 weeks ago. There simply wasn't time. The thought of sitting in a pew while people asked him how he was doing with sympathetic head tilts made him want to crawl out of his skin. But Pastor Jim's wife, Denise, didn't call to ask how he was doing. "I'm putting together a meal train," she said, "starting Sunday. You just need to open your door at 6 and someone will bring dinner. Don't argue with me about it." "Denise, I can't." "You can. You will. We're doing this." Her voice was firm but warm, the tone of someone who'd organized help for families in crisis and knew exactly when to be gentle and when to be immovable. Also, Karen Whitfield wants to know if she can pick up Melissa and Leo on Monday and Wednesday afternoons, take them to the park, give you a few hours. Andres sat down heavily on the couch. Leo was napping. Melissa was watching cartoons with the volume too loud. The house was a disaster, and he had 7 work emails he hadn't answered and a load of laundry that had been sitting in the washer for 2 days and probably smelling of mildew by now. That would help, he managed. "Good. I'll coordinate everything. You focus on your family." That was the problem, wasn't it? He was trying to focus on his family, but his family was in 3 places at once. Isabel in the hospital, the kids needing him here, and his job demanding he show up there. He was being pulled apart, stretched so thin he could feel himself tearing at the seams. Sunday evening, a covered dish appeared on his doorstep at 6 sharp. Tom Reeves, from the church's men's group, holding a casserole and a basket of fruit. "From Sarah's kitchen," Tom said. "There's enough for tomorrow night, too. Just heat it up." "Thank you." The words felt inadequate, but Andres didn't have others. "We're praying for you all," Tom said, and left before Andres had to respond. The food was good. Melissa ate 2 helpings. Leo got more on his face than in his mouth, but that was normal. For the first time in weeks, Andres sat down to eat something that wasn't scrambled eggs or peanut butter sandwiches. His shoulders ached. His eyes burned from too many nights of broken sleep, catching 4 hours here, 3 there, jolting awake with dreams that Isabel was calling for him and he couldn't find her. He cleaned up the dishes, gave the kids a bath that ended with more water on the floor than on their bodies, and finally got them into bed. Melissa wanted 3 stories. He read 1.5 before his voice gave out. "Daddy sounds sad," Melissa said, her small hand patting his cheek. "Daddy's just tired, baby." "I'm tired too." "I know you are." He kissed her forehead and went downstairs to find Leo's jacket for tomorrow and realized he'd never called the insurance company back about the claim they'd denied. He sat on the couch with his phone in his hand and couldn't remember what he was supposed to do with it. Denise showed up on Tuesday, let herself in with the backup key Isabel had given her months ago for watering plants when they traveled. Andres was trying to convince Melissa that yes, she had to wear shoes to daycare, while Leo systematically removed every item from the diaper bag. "I'm not staying," Denise said, which was a lie because she immediately picked up Leo and started checking his diaper. "But I wanted to drop this off." She set a small brown bottle on the kitchen counter. It was no bigger than her thumb, with a dropper top and a simple label, Elm. "It's a flower essence," she said. "Before you refuse, just listen for a moment." Andres found Melissa's shoes under the couch. "I'm listening." "My sister went through something similar when her husband had a stroke. She was doing everything. The hospital, 3 kids, working full time. She was drowning." Denise settled Leo on her hip with the ease of someone who'd raised 4 children of her own. "Someone gave her this. 4 drops under the tongue, morning and evening. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to bring Isabel home tomorrow or make the kids easier or give you more hours in the day." "Then what's it supposed to do?" "It helps with the feeling of being overwhelmed." She met his eyes. "You're a good father, Andres. You're doing an incredible job under impossible circumstances, but I see that you're trying to be 3 people at once, and you're exhausted." He wanted to argue, wanted to say he was fine. He could handle it. He just needed to work harder and sleep less and figure out how to be better at all of this. But standing there with Melissa's shoes in his hand and his son in the arms of someone else because he couldn't do everything at the same time, the words stuck in his throat. 4 drops, Denise said again. "Give it a week. If it doesn't help, you've lost nothing." She put Leo down, kissed both kids on the head, and left. That night, after the kids were asleep and the dishes were done and he'd returned 3 phone calls he'd been avoiding, Andres picked up the little bottle. The label had instructions. 4 drops under the tongue, 2 to 4 times daily. He unscrewed the cap. It couldn't hurt. Probably wouldn't help either, but Denise had been kind, and refusing felt ungrateful. He put 4 drops under his tongue. Nothing happened. He didn't expect anything to happen. He went to bed. Wednesday morning started the same as every other morning. Leo crying at 5:47, quickly followed by Melissa demanding cartoons and breakfast. Andres got up, put his feet on the floor, and started the routine. Diapers, clothes, breakfast, shoes, coats, out the door. But somewhere between making oatmeal and packing the diaper bag, something shifted. Not dramatically, not magically. He was still exhausted, still worried sick about Isabel, still running on too little sleep and too much coffee. But when Melissa announced she wanted the purple cup and not the blue one, and he realized the purple cup was dirty, he didn't feel the usual surge of defeat. He washed the purple cup. It took 30 seconds. He took the elm again that evening and again Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, when Karen picked up the kids and he had 3 unexpected hours to himself, he didn't spend them staring at the wall feeling guilty. He went to the hospital, sat with Isabel, who was sleeping, heavily medicated, her hand thin and cold in his. And then he came home and did 2 loads of laundry. It wasn't that the tasks were easier. It wasn't that he suddenly had more energy or the problems had gotten smaller. But the paralysis was lifting. The awful weight that had been pressing down on him, the feeling that every task was impossible and he was failing at all of them, was loosening its grip. Friday, someone from church brought dinner again. Monday, Karen took the kids. Tuesday, the hospital social worker connected him with a support group. Wednesday, his manager called to tell him that the company was approving his extended family leave. Piece by piece, the unbearable was becoming a bit more bearable. 2 weeks later, Andres sat on the back steps while the kids were playing in the yard. Melissa was pulling Leo in the wagon, both of them laughing. The toys were still scattered everywhere, but he'd gotten the worst of it yesterday. The grass needed mowing. He'd do it tomorrow. The little round bottle sat on the step beside him. It caught the late sun like a seed of calm. Nearly empty now. He'd need to ask Denise where to get more because it was working. Not in the way he'd expected. Not like taking a pill that made the pain stop or fear disappear. The fear was still there. The exhaustion was still real. Isabel's prognosis hadn't changed. But he'd stopped feeling like he was drowning. The tasks that had seemed impossible were just tasks again. Hard, yeah, but possible to approach one at a time. He could look at his children and see what they needed instead of seeing one more thing he was failing at. He could accept help without feeling like it proved he wasn't strong enough. He wasn't managing because everything was fixed. He was managing because he could remember he was capable of managing, even when the weight of everything made that hard to see. Melissa called to him, "Daddy, watch!" She was going down the little tyke slide backwards. "I'm watching me, huh? That was very brave." And he was. He was present, there, doing what he could do. The rest would come as it came. For now, that was enough. As Andres sits on those back steps, nothing fixed, nothing easy, nothing magically lighter, we see something else emerge. The quiet shift that happens when support begins to hold us where life has become unbearable. If this story touched something in you, or if you've been moving through your own season of overwhelm, you might explore Elm, the flower essence that gently supports those moments when responsibility feels far too heavy. It won't erase the pain or the fear, but it can help find a steadier breath, one small piece at a time. I'd love to hear what the story stirred for you. If you feel comfortable, share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments. Your words might be the reminder someone else needs today. Thank you for being here and for giving yourself this moment of stillness. If you'd like more stories like this, stories that soften the edges and offer a little space inside the chaos, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, be gentle with the part of you that's been holding everything together. You're doing better than you think.